So we got Jordan Swan on the other side. My name is Eric Swan, so it's kind of unique. We got similar last names, and you don't really hear too many Swans out there in the world. I know there's a bunch of Swans in Sweden, but not too many in the
In
state.
Sweden, okay. No, not really. It's funny. I actually came across a Jordan Swan in the past, and that was a lady. So
Okay.
uh, that was a funny interaction.
Yeah, Jordan can be both male and female, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Very good. And so we met doing the sports car stuff, the sports car coaching. I was your instructor over at Speed Vegas Exotics Racing. And I'll just backtrack for a moment. This is the EricSwahnRacing.com podcast. I like to jump right into it. And this is number 131 with Jordan Swan. And so, like I was saying, you came over to Speed Vegas and we did some car coaching. You were the driver, I was the coach. And so, how did that go for
Sure.
you?
That went pretty well. That was my first experience on the track in a car. I've done some other track situations before, but that was a great first timer, and I'm definitely gonna be back there at least once a month. So pretty excited to be there again pretty soon.
Awesome. And were you in the Porsche GT4?
That's correct. Yes, sure.
And what do you think of that car? Was it pretty nimble, pretty fast, easy to
That,
handle?
that was
What were your
great.
thoughts?
That was great actually. When I came home, I started to kind of look around if there was one available for sale and kind of look at the price tag. Really got into it. So I'm a big Audi Porsche guy, and I really love the car. It was easy to just move around. I was a little cautious with it at first. Didn't really want to get too aggressive because everything was so nice and so so good looking about it. Didn't want to break anything.
Right. That car, brand new, starts out at I think is $101,000 stock. It's street legal, but it's still about 414 horsepower, about 3,200 pounds. So it's pretty capable, fairly light in regards to sports cars that are stock from the dealership. So it's a pretty capable car, I think. I love coaching in that. It's manageable, it's predictable. It's not too much power that people can't handle it, but it's enough that you're still going at our 1.3 mile track. You're still going 120 miles an hour down the straightaway, so almost double what you do on the street.
Yeah, that's pretty double sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
No,
so tell
that
me how
that's
you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was just confirming what you were saying. That's a very, very nice car and gets a lot of feedback and sensation. So was really excited to see that what I thought would be a limit is actually really far from it, and there is plenty over there to just keep on pushing. So that
For
was
sure.
really cool for a first experience. I think that was really adapted to what I had to give and what I was really ready to receive.
Yeah, and sounds like you have a lot of experience in go-karting. Is that right?
A lot of experience. I don't know if we can say a lot, but I started a journey, and I think that go-karting is the first step in it. So I'm spending a lot of time, up to 8 hours a day over there. It's 12 lap races, and I do up to 20, 25 races a day. So trying
Nice.
to put 300 laps every day. Um, it's short laps, it's just commercial go-karting, but it's getting me a lot of time behind the wheel. It's right down the street from my house, and it gets me to interact with a lot of people. You see a lot of track guys coming there every day, and you see how surprising it is that you would expect somebody that spends so much time on the track to get there to the go-kart and be extremely good at it, and they struggle. And actually, when I came back from Vegas, I got there and I was trying to apply what you told me over there, and I struggled because I realized that it's just so different. The mechanic of it is fairly similar, but it's just the power to weight ratio is very different. So you're like, oh, it's just gonna be slower, but it's not it. There is so many differences that if I apply what you taught me on the track, I would do absolutely terrible. And the first few laps that I did with you, I was trying to get in mind kind of what I do over there with the go-kart, and that was absolutely terrible as well. So it's really, really funny to see that it's not just four wheels and a steering wheel, and the mechanic of it, it's just so much more. But anyway, I was saying those guys are coming to that place quite often, people that come from dirt bikes, people that come from NASCAR, and so many different people. There was even a Jeff, I probably will say his name wrong, but Jeff Newgarden from IndyCar that came there, and I was expecting him to just break all records, and he didn't do that well. He didn't do bad either, but he didn't do that well. And that's where you realize that jumping from one vehicle to another, you can be really good somewhere and not that great somewhere else. So I am really excited to spend time there and meet all those people and exchange all that information with them.
Yeah,
it's just a good step toward my goal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that karting is probably the fastest way to become a race car driver. However, they're very similar in some aspects, but it's very different in others, right? You can probably get away with a lot more mistakes in a kart and not spin the kart. Whether you do that in a car, you spin it a lot quicker if you're having bad technique. So they're very similar, but they're a little bit different, as you've noticed. So it's not exactly the same. And I'm still trying to brush up on my knowledge. I bought a few books I'll show you here that I'm getting into and starting to read. I have a practical guide to race motorcycle electronics. So I do both bikes and cars. I just got this one in the mail today. I actually know this gentleman, Vince Consiglio. He was my coach for a while for street riding. We fought the law and changed it about the motorcycle helmet law in Michigan, and how we repealed that law. Whether you think that's good or not, that's debatable, right? I think you should always wear a helmet, but I think you should also have the freedom to choose as well. I got one, How Your Motorcycle Works, kind of a general guide to components and systems of modern motorcycles. So this might be a general overview, but it's got a lot of good information in here that you never go wrong with. I just got another one called Sportbike Suspension Tuning, How to Improve Your Motorcycle Handling and Performance. So that's a cool one. That's by Andrew Trevitt. This one is one of the godfathers of motorcycle racing and riding. The Soft Science of Road Racing Motorcycles by Keith Code. And I'm beginning to actually work for Keith at the Superbike school, California Superbike school, that is. I got another one from him. It's called The Twist of the Wrist, again by Keith Code.
Okay.
And I also have Twist of the Wrist too. I've read that one like 4 or 5 times cover to cover. That was the first book I really read on how to ride a motorcycle at the racetrack. And I would highly recommend Twist of the Wrist too to anybody, cars or bikes. It's just the foundation. Also have Sport Riding Techniques. As you can see, I'm a little obsessed. Sport Riding Techniques.
With motorcycle.
mostly motorcycle stuff, but I did just get 2 of them. I started the first one I'll mention here. They're both by Ross Bentley. That would go more along with what you're doing, which is Speed Secrets, Professional Race Driving Techniques for sports cars, and open wheel as well. And it goes over so many different aspects of this. I'm only on like chapter 3 or something on this one, but just got that one in. And another one by Ross Bentley, Ultimate Speed Secrets, which is the complete guide to high performance and race driving, which I think would be right up your alley. So, yeah, I don't get any commission if you buy them, but I think there's such valuable techniques and lessons in here. Like the first whole chapter of Speed Secrets I was reading is all about your seating position in the car. And I was like, this is the first thing they're talking about? Like, why is that so important? But they were even saying in there, a bad seating position is worth up to half a second a lap. Because if you're not able to use the controls properly, how can you steer the car properly? Or like if you're stiff arming the steering wheel and you're steering like this, with your arms straight, for people who are listening, it's going to be very difficult to actually control that vehicle properly. Same thing with the motorcycle. If your ergonomics don't feel good, it's going to be hard to have good control inputs. One big thing that I've learned from motorcycle racing or even cars is just what is the minimum necessary control inputs that you can have into the vehicle to make it ride or drive good or well. Most people are fighting the wheel or the handlebars too much. One thing I think is extremely important to think about is for motorcyclists especially, people are holding onto the bars with a death grip, and that limits what the motorcycle wants to do. And so we say, well, if you're in a car, would you be putting all your weight on the steering wheel, essentially not sitting down on the seat? Well, no, of course not. You can't steer the car if you're putting all your weight on the steering wheel. So it's the same concept going from bikes to cars in a lot of ways.
It does, and on a bike, it gets a lot more dangerous. If you get a speed wobble situation and you're too grippy on the handlebar, then it's not gonna end very well for you.
Sure, exactly. And it's
So,
similar in a car. If you're starting to initiate a slide in a car and you limit the natural counter steering action, the passive counter steer, and you try to actively counter steer, most of the time you go too far and you're now going to initiate another slide or a flick or what's the word? Or a snap back to the other side and you have a spin that way. So it can go both ways. A lot of times the car is smarter than you are. Just go with the flow most of the time.
And just be as gentle and soft as possible. When you're too stiff, you make brutal changes. And that's something I learned way before thinking about racing. But I grew up and got my driver license, where there is a foot of snow 4 months out of the year. So driving in the snow is very much like driving a car on the track at really high speed. You have to be very gentle with everything. And if you go too rough, then the car just goes all the way out. And it's not something you want to happen.
And so where did you grow up driving?
In the east of France. Not at the Switzerland border, but just about 2 hours away from it, an hour and a half. And we usually have so much snow in the winter that we have to leave the car at the bottom of the hill and just pull the groceries on a slider or something, because we just can't make it with the car.
And so you're from France then?
Correct, that's correct. I've was born and raised over there, grew up there, and when I turned 22, I came to the US.
Je m'appelle Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Yeah, I took one semester of French in middle school, so I know a couple words, but not too much. I'm much better at Spanish right now.
Yeah, it's funny how everybody here in the US, every time I say I'm French, they try to say something, and sometimes you have those ladies, they try it so hard, and I'm like, you don't have to. You okay? It's all right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, did I offend you? I'm like, no, I'm not offended, but just don't butcher the words, please.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to learn multiple languages. You get to be able to communicate in so many different ways, learn their culture, learn their food, learn how they interact. I think it's important.
It is, and it just brings you a lot of understanding in different aspects too. When you get to science, speaking different languages, when you don't find a way to explain something in one language, and then there is another way that comes, let's say in French or in Portuguese. I speak Portuguese as well. It makes speaking easier. So it's really nice to speak with somebody that speaks French, English, and Portuguese as well, because I can just go from one language to another and they will understand what I'm saying. And actually, when you do something like math and you see all those signs in your head and everything, not everybody is a visual thinker. That's the way I think. And when I do math, sometimes I'm counting and I'm going to say numbers in French. And then 2 seconds later, I'm saying them in English. It's however the flows goes, and it just helps to get it done faster.
Sure. And tell me about when you started to learn English. Was that early on or later in your life? And was that more difficult than French or about the same?
So I had English class for as long as I can remember in school. But when I came to the US, I was just saying the following few words. Hello, my name is Jordan. I'm from France. I would call every girl pretty because that was the easiest thing to do. And then that was about it, nothing else. So I actually had to learn everything here on the spot. 2016, I got the chance that I was going to school with American people. I was living with them. There was kids as well, and I was playing sports. So on the field, everybody was playing, was talking very either slang or very loud or very quiet. So I was exposed to so many different aspects of English very quickly that I didn't have a choice. I had to learn, and I was really able to learn proper English, like corporate speech or like slang, and pay attention when people are just very murmuring. The coach used to talk so quietly, and everybody was so loud on the field that I have to look at his lips and just read on his lips to understand what he was saying. So that was a great experience, and I think that helped me speak a better English now, as I don't think in French and then translate in my head and all of this. I just think in English because I was not given translations. They would show me a steering wheel and say, this is a steering wheel. They would not say the French version and then the English one. And I'm saying it with a very simple, with a word for one object. But as a sentence in general, when they say, hey, don't translate word by word, it's absolutely true. And when you learn it in school, you have this tendency of everybody's teaching you that way to say, oh, this morning I cooked breakfast and ate some chocolate. And then they're going to say it in your language. And it's going to be very word by word, where it's more of a feeling, the way you express yourself. So I'm very glad that I got to learn English here in the US because it made my life a lot easier later on.
Yeah, I'd say most people don't speak in proper English. It's a lot of slang, a lot of words that really aren't in the dictionary, probably. Or I've said this before, but you know, if somebody says, "What did he?" they don't usually say it like that. They say, "What did he? What did he say?" Right? So it's not really a word, but you say it fast, and it becomes a new word.
Yes, and then a lot of people write like they speak. Something that's a pet peeve, and I don't say anything. You know, I own my business. So I have employees, and I see them doing this. I'm like, oh my goodness, my eyes are like bleeding to see this. But should have, people say should have, and then they write it down should have instead of should have, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like so simple, and like it doesn't even make sense to say something like should have.
Right.
But just people like write it like they speak it, and you see so many funny mistakes every now and then that you're just thinking, what happened? Where did this get lost in the making?
Yeah, they just skip school, I guess, or they don't care about their grammar. But yeah, it's always like nails on a chalkboard when you hear that kind of stuff.
Yep. You know, it's I think it's the culture in the US. It's very nurturing to the kids, where the Latin culture or the French, European in general, but the French culture, it's nurturing, but in a different ways. It's very aggressive. You know, parents are very much like, you don't have a choice. You know, when a kid asks, why should I do this? It's like, because I told you. So we don't ask. The parents are like, that's what it is. Your parents' word is the law. So you obey to whatever they say. And I feel like here, when you make mistakes as a kid, the parents are very much like, oh, it's all right, you're gonna do better next time. Where in France, you know, my parents would be more like, you're gonna do better next time. And you know, just like this movie when they say, oh, I promise you I'm not gonna disappoint you ever again, and they say, oh, I know you won't, and then they just shoot the person, therefore they're not getting disappointed. It's kind of like the same thing at a different scale, obviously, but it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I promise I'm not gonna make that mistake again. And the parents are like, oh yeah, I know you're not gonna make it, because they're gonna be consequences otherwise, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's
And
maybe people want more freedom here to do whatever they want, and they're not smart enough to make those decisions, even though they might get the freedom to.
yeah, I don't think if it's smart, it's just this whole I am not for, and that's just my opinion, but I'm not for compensation trophy. It's if you're not first, you last, basically. Or like what was his name? Was it Massa that said this? If you're second, it just means that you're the first one that lost.
Yeah.
If you finish second, it just means you're the first one that lost. And first, second, third, I get it. But then when you're the very last one of 20, 30 kids and you get a little trophy, so your feelings are not hurt, then it doesn't build like the confidence of, oh, I'm going to do better. And that's why I have this anger and this hunger as well toward just winning. And I can't accept not to be first. That's why I'm just at what I do every single day until I get it right. and once I get it right, until nobody can get it as right as I do, is because if I'm not first, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm angry, not at the other person. I'm angry at myself. I'm like, I gotta do better. And here, when they're like, hey, you're not first, it's okay. Here's a little present. Here's a candy. Here's this. It creates this environment and this mindset that if you're not first, it's okay. And I don't think it is. You don't have to be very aggressive about it. You can just teach your child, hey, it's not okay to not be first. You always got to strive to do better. But just don't be aggressive.
Right. You should
Don't be
always,
like Latinos and French parents. They're
yeah,
too aggressive.
you should always strive for excellence. You're not going to be perfect in
Mhm.
everything. You got to pick your battles, right? So I'm never going to be a astrophysicist or some chemist.
Correct.
Probably, I don't think that's in my cards. But you know, I do think I can be a high level professional in my field.
Correct. Yep. Whatever you go, you do it to be the best at it. Otherwise, there is no point in it.
Right.
And that's why I'm starting this journey. And you and I had that talk that I really want to get into Formula One. That it might get too hard, might be too hard, and it's okay. I don't see that part. Perhaps I'm not gonna make it, but that's not what I'm looking for. Like, I'm gonna make it. And one thing that I learned from a customer a few months ago is that the thing is never about the thing. I came to the US to do something, and I'm doing something completely different. And some people could be like, well, then you failed. I'm like, I failed at my original task, quest, but whatever I got out of this is just so much better that it was completely worth it. And out of this, I learned two new languages. I I mean, financially, I got to make more money than I ever thought I would make, and I'm far from being wealthy, far from it. But I got to be in a position that, as a French citizen, I would have never thought I would ever be able to be, just because I actually went after something and I didn't give up until I either got it or got something better. And what I'm doing here is that I'm gonna go after this with all my might, and I'm gonna go after it until I either get it or get something better. Now, there is not much better than being a Formula One racer. So we'll see what could come along the way that's better than this, but I'm gonna go after it until something happens.
Sure. And so when did you start your journey of driving or sports car performance or karting, anything like that at the track?
Well, I started November 29 of last year. On the 29, I called my HR lady. We're very close, and we talk about a lot of work things and aside from work. And I called her, I said, look, it's been on my mind for a while, but I'm going to be a Formula One driver. And I didn't say, I think I'd like to be. I said, I'm going to be one. And I was like, now I'm screwed because I have no idea where I'm going to get started. I just woke up and I said, that's what's going to happen. But where do I start? Like, I'm 29. I'm not old, but I'm a little too old for this, So I had no idea. And then on the November 30, I actually decided, you know what, my first step, how to get something done is always baby steps. And for baby steps, there is a first step. So my first step was to go to K1 Speed. It's down the street from my house. It's a fairly worldwide known go-kart place. So I knew I was going to come across people over there. And I started going there. And when I started, I tried to make the top 50 of the year, knowing that it was November 30, and I was leaving on December 19 for Brazil. So I had 19 days to make the top 50 of 365 days. I didn't make it. I finished like 65 out of everybody. So it's not that bad. And I'm not too upset about it. I wish I could have been in the top 50, but I'm not too upset about it because, like I said, I had 19 days. And I came back from my European trip after Brazil. I went to Europe on January 12th, and I was already 2,000 points behind the number one. And I said, this year, that's going to be me. And I'm going to show the world that nobody stands a chance and that I'm going after this dream and I'm going at it seriously. And just a few days ago, last Monday, actually, I crossed 10,000 points, so that I was the first person on 5 digits. As of 3 weeks ago, I would have been in the top 10 of last year already, and it's March.
So that's based on points that you get for completing races, or is that based on lap time?
So it's based on points. It's based on how many people you pass, your lap time, and lap average. So if you have the best lap of the race, you get 2 points. You have the best average, you get 2 points. And for whoever is in the race, you also get 2 points. So it's mainly time and money spent on there. It's not really about skills. But if you're terrible at it, you also don't get all those points.
Right.
So you have to somewhat get good at it.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time there. And obviously I pick and choose my battles. If there is 2 people on the track and I've already been racing 300 laps today, I'm not gonna just keep on going for 6 points. That just doesn't make any sense. And days like Mondays, there's double points, so I might spend a little more time over there. But that way my name is over there. So I'm not really doing it for the sake of like, oh, I'm first just on points, because like I said, it's mainly time and money, and I don't find that very glorifying or anything. But my name is out there, and it's funny because I've had people like created an Instagram that you have, especially just for this journey and everything, specifically for this journey. And I have people reaching out to me on there that were racing with me, and then they just found the Instagram and they start sending me messages. People found my company online and texted the company's direct line, like office line, saying, hey, I hope you get slower in the next race because I want to beat your lap time. So slowly getting some exposure. I see some little kids coming yesterday. Some little kid came with his family, and I'm very friend with most of the staff that work over there now. So they came to me to tell me later on. But the parents were like, oh, yeah, so my kid wants to race Jordan Swan. And then the kid was like, oh, my God, no, I don't want to race Jordan Swan. And it's just funny because like this, little by little, I get exposure. And like I said, I get to meet really cool people that race other categories of vehicle. And just because I'm out there and I'm there every day and I'm doing my thing, then I just get a few cards in my sleeve to grab their attention. So now we can interact and we can entertain a conversation that would never have happened if I was not out there and just showing my name over there. And I'm trying to like show it by a lot. I think I'm like 3,000 points or 3,000 or 4,000 points in front of the number 2, just because now I'm like, hey, I'm not just first. I'm taking this seriously. You know, this whole sentence of amateurs keep on doing it until they do it right, while professional do it until they can't get it wrong, right? Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I get on the track every single day, and some karts, one of the difficulty of go-karts in commercial go-karting is that the karts need to be maintained by the location, and some karts are like having more collisions with other people, so they're slower or they steer less or more. You always have a different kart, so it's really good to adapt and, you know, kind of chase and be like Kimi Raikkonen, about a half lap within the vehicle. He could just adapt to whatever he was driving. So it's really good. But it gets to push my limits too, because my line can't be the same every single time with a different kart. And I have to make micro adjustments. So I keep on doing it until I can't get it wrong, regardless of which kart I get. And that's all the thing that I'm trying to represent and to help me lead the way towards statement number 2, which I still don't know what it is yet. I have a goal for 2024.
Sorry, do you have a simulator at home, with like a wheel and pedal setup at all?
No, I don't. That's part of what I want to buy this year. So probably gonna do that sometime in April. I kind of want to review the different simulators. I kind of like found a few things that seems to be pretty good setup, but I want to discuss with more people. So coming to Speed Vegas, discussing that with you, and kind of like talking with different people. I started following Sportscar on Instagram, and they post a lot about this. There's this company. There was a convention about those simulators in Dubai, and they just last week, and there's this company called Teleos that has a simulator as well. So I really want to be exposed to everybody and kind of see what would fit my needs best. Because I don't care to have $100,000 simulator just because it's the cool stuff that vibrates and lifts you up. I'd rather get something cheaper, but that's more fit to my needs rather than
you don't need something that costs that much, really. I have a Fanatec. I would look it up. FANATEC is a really great brand. They have there's many others, but that's the one I went with. And it was a couple thousand, 2,000-3,000 total for the I have a DD1 wheel and a Formula One. It's a wheel base, DD1 wheel base, and a Formula One style wheel. But you can get tons of different types of wheels that are circular, or even like
Mm-hmm.
off McLaren that you can actually put on a real car. So they're very high level. And then I have the V3 inverted pedals. Even the Logitech stuff is pretty good. I would recommend something like that. And I use Assetto Corsa, which is the game that I'm using. You could use it on PC, Xbox, or PS4, maybe even PS5 now. But it's very accurate, and I think most of the people who are working at Speed Vegas actually have something similar to that. All the instructors do. So I think it's very valuable. iRacing is really great as well, but I feel like the grip model isn't as accurate as Assetto Corsa. So like you tend to spin way easier in iRacing than you would in Assetto Corsa. I think it's a little too unrealistic in iRacing, but that's a very
Okay.
popular game as well. And I personally know a guy who won an iRacing championship and got a real car drive. He got a seat in a car and a pro series for SRO championship in Canada. And so you can really translate the skills from a simulator into a real life car fairly well. And, the first couple rounds of the season, he said he was not up to speed because it's so different when you have the G-force and everything. But by the end of the season, he was winning races and getting on the podium. First year ever in a real car. So I would say the karting is not a bad idea, but like you experienced going from the karts to a real car, it's different, right? So getting
Mm-hmm.
some time behind a simulator is maybe even more important, I would say. If that's the route you want to take and go into cars, I would look at getting a simulator. I would look at doing track days and maybe even renting a car. Like what Speed Vegas is more of an experience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a driving school. So I would do some serious driving schools that you can go out there and rent their cars, like a Skip Barber school. There's many different ones around the country, but more specifically, school environment where you have, say, 5 to 7 sessions of 20 minutes in the car, and they typically have 5 classroom sessions of 20 minutes as well, where they go over specific, detailed,
Okay.
pinpoint drills that you go out there and then practice. So I think
Okay.
those would be very valuable for you. And just get out there and do some track days. Like one time I rented a car from a rental agency place and took it to the racetrack. I made sure I had the premium insurance. I mean, it was just a street car. It was a stock road car with nothing fancy on it. And you just drive any vehicle to its limit. And
Okay.
you might not be going Mach speed out there with a Chevy Malibu, but it's at least you get to experience what it's like in that type of environment, and you get to be on the
I mean,
track,
I
other
drive
drivers.
so you can bring a regular vehicle to any racetrack?
There might be some restrictions, but yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't fall apart, you don't even it didn't have race tires or race brake pads. It was completely stock. This was just a track day organization. This was in Michigan last year, I think it was, and I just
Okay.
wanted to do up my first track day in a car. Maybe it was 2 years ago, and so I tried to get a BMW M3. I thought that would be really cool. I went to reserve it. It said sorry. After I reserved it, I got a message right after saying, sorry, it's unavailable. It needs more maintenance. I'm like, oh, well, I just paid for it, but they gave me a credit. So
Okay.
I did it again with another sports car, and they said, oh, sorry, we need more maintenance. So I did it twice in a row. I got another couple $100 credit. I was like, this is kind of working out, just getting free money doing this. And then there weren't many cars
Okay.
available that in my area for that sports car. So I just went with the next best thing. It was either a Tesla, and the Tesla I was like, well, that's gonna die in a session or two. I can't take that to the track. So I got only other car in the area was this other vehicle. So I just did that one.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, my whole business is based around vehicle, obviously not track vehicle. But we got a couple 5 series for the company. I have an A7 And then with Turo nowadays, it's just so easy to rent any car you want for a pretty reasonable price. So definitely something I'm going to look into, because as of right now, I was trying to come once a month to Speed Vegas. I mean, obviously over there, I get to be with an instructor in the vehicle. I even started to look for sponsors. I get to be exposed to a few CMOs that could potentially be interested. I just need to find a way to put it together. To, I don't know, maybe fly to Vegas once a week. It's a 45-minute flight. I can be on the plane at 6:30 in the morning. By the time I get to Speed Vegas, it's 9 a.m. I don't even know if it opens at 9 a.m. I spend all day on the track and then I fly back at night. So if I get sponsors, that's something I could do once a week. Definitely gets that idea that you just mentioned, renting a car or using one of my vehicles to go to the racetrack. And then same thing for exposure, because training is a huge part of it, but exposure for more sponsors and for people to get interested to, okay, why should we give him a seat in that race? I was thinking to do just a tour of all the K1 speed in America. On the Instagram, that's props to my friend Roberto. He's also my photographer. He gave me that idea, but I could announce, and every Wednesday, Thursday, I go to a different track. So I jump in the plane right after Speed Vegas. I go there. I spend Wednesday to kind of learn the track, because each track is different, obviously. I spend Wednesday to learn the track, and on Thursday, it's called Fast Thursday. There is some challenges those days. So you get the fastest kid from the town that usually go on Thursday, because they get free races if they get the best time. So that would be a cool thing to display a schedule on the Instagram and kind of like get that exposure, and people from all around us like, hey, Jordan Swan is coming in town. Let's see what's it all about, you know? And then I get great.
So yeah, you were saying you're looking to go around and do like a K1 K1 speed karting around the country and visit all the different locations.
Correct, yeah, and announce it on a schedule, kind of like a tour to get the exposure. And if I can get enough exposure that people kind of get excited and talk about it, perhaps I can get the local track guy that are going to come and that's kind of want to check out what it's all about. So now we can interact and I can make connections, hopefully bring something good to them and they could bring something good to me. And then just bring the best out of that situation. That'd be great.
Yeah. And so if you're looking to really go the F1 route, you know, I don't want to put a damper in your excitement, but most of those guys who are in F1 have been at the racetrack since they were 3 to 5 years old or younger. So like they basically grow up at the racetrack. I'm not saying it's not possible. Anything is possible. And I love seeing those aspirational dreams. But if you're really looking to go that route, I would do racing schools as much as you're doing karting, because that's the number one way to get way faster. If you have somebody teaching you all the different drills that you can do in the car and techniques that will allow you to go faster and be safer, is really get on a racetrack with a bigger vehicle, and on the bigger courses. You know, the karting is great, but it's not everything, especially if you don't want to be a professional go-kart racer. And if you did want to be a go-kart racer, I would even recommend looking into tag karts, TAG, or shifter karts. The tag karts are really quick. The Tony karts are great. The IAME X30 horsepower engines are out of this world. But something like that would be the next step up from K1. K1 is more like you said, it's a commercial operation where you just rent the karts. Now, if you had your own kart, you could be traveling to all these different go-kart tracks, going double the speed. Yes, you'd have to be doing more maintenance on the kart, whether that's transmissions or engines or, you know, changing tires. But I think you get a better sense of what's really possible if you were to do some like USPKS is United States Pro Kart Series. I would highly recommend at least attend one of those events. Talk to those people, because those people are much closer to real racing than K1 is. Not to throw shade at it,
obviously,
but it's the next step. And if you're really looking to get to that next step, I would say do less of K1 and do more of outside go-kart tracks and do more of
Okay.
the big tracks with cars. That will give you so much more of an understanding of what these cars are capable of. Or look into Formula Series, the open wheel series, because if that's what you want to do, look into Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2 cars, and that is the roadmap to Formula 1. Now, I actually work with another guy at Speed Vegas, who is a Indy Lights driver, and that Indy Lights is the road to Indy cars. So it's the feeder
Okay.
series. There's a US 2000, which are Formula style open wheel not sports cars, but open wheel Formula cars. That would be a great place to start. Even going to the paddocks of these professional races for IndyCar, talking to them, because IndyCar is very similar to Formula One, except it's more of a spec series instead of a development series. You know, where they're trying to develop all this new technology and they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So, you know, sponsorship can be lucrative. And I've had 20 sponsors myself for motorcycle road racing, but most of the sponsors at our level are going to want to pay you in free products and discounts. So it's a very much pay to play sport. So the hardest part about racing is funding it. Now, if you have a business that's successful and you can, you know, have a couple $100,000 to spend on it, that's great. Not a lot of people have that extra income to just, you know, spend on their hobby at this point. But like for me, a full professional series of motorcycle racing, 10 rounds, maybe say 11 rounds plus testing rounds and training, you're looking at $150,000 for a full semi truck and a plane ticket to every event, hotel rooms, you know, food and all that. Now, an Indy Lights full season, which is not even IndyCar yet, just the feeder series, you're looking at 1.5 million just to show up. So you're talking IndyCar, you're talking probably tens of millions, and to do Formula One, you're talking probably hundreds of millions just to be on the grid before you even win a single race. So just to enter the series, you're talking big money, which is a big barrier for a lot of people, for me especially. So like there's a ton of people with a lot of talent who just don't have the money to do it.
And that's where I'm trying to make a point that whoever you are, just set your mind to it. And like I said, so like you said, the karting events that you were mentioning, I will ask you a few questions after the podcast to kind of like write down everything we just spoke about. So many very interesting points right here. K1 was my baby step, my first step. That's going to be the second one. And a lot of people have so many dreams and things, and it remains a dream because they don't know where to start. And when you start, you realize how hard it is. But I want to be able to kind of pave the way and show that even without financial support from the beginning, you can make it happen. But the question is how. So I want to make it happen. And then once I've made it happen, I can show the how. And that's really what I'm trying to accomplish with this. I've been kind of bugging some of our Qualcomm customer for a little while because they sponsor Formula One and they're very much into sports and trying to get their name out there. And they are customers, and you know, I'm very close to this company. I feel very very attached to it for some reason. Emotionally, I've seen it grown just since I've been in the US, even though it's been around for a lot longer. And if they were to come out with a phone and a laptop, then I would definitely like start buying those products because I don't know, I have that attachment. Anyway, I've been bugging them for a while because they have these products that seems to be named something like around edge of possible. And I really want to show that at the edge of possible, you can still make it happen. So I understand that the money is going to be a big problem, but if you set your mind to it, anything is possible. Now, it's a sentence. A lot of people use it, but don't back it up. And I want to be the example that backs it up. So now other people can get just inspired. What the world needs is a little more inspiration and a little more like that little spark that says, just keep on going one more day, keep on going one more day. Yeah. Because tomorrow is going to be better. And then one of those tomorrow is going to happen. Just You might be depressed because you haven't made it yet. Well, you're not depressed. You're just like, it's a down day. It's okay. We all have them. Sometimes you wake up, sometimes I wake up, I'm like, why am I spending all this money for? Like, why am I spending all this time for? Because while I'm spending the time there, I'm not working 100% on other things, you know?
Sure.
But it's okay. We all have those down days, and it's just this one more day thing, and keep on doing it until you figure it out. And once I figure it out, I can just guide other people, just like mentors have guided me in other aspects, and I'm sure you've came across mentors that have helped you as well. I want to be able to mentor people that have dreams and just want to make it happen.
Yeah, so there's a racing school that my buddy just did for Formula 4 cars. It's called Radford, Radford, Radford Racing School. And they're in Formula 4 cars. They go all around the country. I'm pretty sure it's not just one track. The next one that they have is actually let's see. It's actually happening today, Monday through Wednesday in Chandler, Arizona. So not too far away.
Okay.
Then they do sports cars, they do drag racing, they do open wheel cars. My recommendation to you is check out some of these links that I've already mentioned, but and I'll give you some of these links later if you ask for them. But also look up, motorsportsreg.com. And it's through Haggerty, a very famous motorsport brand. And they have a huge list of events happening in your area. You just type in your zip code or where you are. I think you're in California, not too far from me. And they have all these events from motorcycles to sports cars, open wheels, karting. And it's an event registration website. So you can see all the events happening within, 1,000 miles of your doorstep, or you can limit it to 200. And I would go to these events and just ask people, just talk to people. For anybody who's listening, you want to get into racing, you're interested in it, you don't know how, go to your local racetrack. Most of the time, there's no tickets. You don't need tickets. Most of these are amateur events. And so there might not even be a gate fee. If there is, it might be $10 to $20, a small amount. Well, you don't have to pre-register or anything. You just show up and pay a small fee, if that. And you can walk around the pits. It's not closed off. You can talk to anybody as long as they're not going to go out in 5 minutes. They'll love to talk to you. Just go out there, talk to people, get information. Ask if anybody has rentals for vehicles. How can I sign up? Can I do a session today? Bring your helmet just in case. A lot of times, if it's a car event, they'll be like, yeah, jump in the passenger seat. I'll give you a ride along. And then you start meeting friends and talking to people, and you're like, oh, wow, there's an event next week. I could do that. Now, if you really have some money, you can rent full-on race cars from different companies that have like a show up and drive type of service where I've looked it up. I've asked them the fees. It's not cheap, but like you can rent GT4, GT3 cars. You can rent pretty much whatever you want if you have the money, if you talk to the right people. And they will fill up the cars. They'll tune the suspension. They'll put new tires on it. They'll drive it to the racetrack in their semi trucks, and they'll say, "All right, here you go. Don't screw it up," And then there's usually insurance that you pay. If you pay X amount of dollars, they'll cover you up to this amount. If you pay more, they'll cover full coverage. So if you screw it up, you pay the deductible and then you're done. All different sorts of scenarios. And if you're looking to get into motorcycles, I'm training to be a coach for California Superbike School right now. So that wouldn't be a bad option. We have a fleet of 40 BMW S1000RR Superbikes, and we have leathers, we have helmets, gloves, boots, back protectors. Show up and ride. We provide.
I already have. I already have all the equipment.
Breakfast and lunch, and dinner's on you. But there's usually a hotel within 20 minutes of the racetrack, so we usually go there. But this year I'll be going to, I think, 11 racetracks within 8 states and 2 different companies for coaching. So I'm all in, man. I love it, and I'm trying to get more people involved in it.
Okay. Well, I definitely know a few people, and I'm actually gonna mention your name to somebody that organize. I don't know if you're familiar with Track Days.
Yeah. I know that I
Uh,
podcasted with him before. Is it I
okay.
forget his name off the top of my
Um,
head. Is it Dustin?
Dustin, yeah, Dustin Conyer. He's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice. A friend of mine that does the same kind of business as what I do introduced me to this team in the past, and been going to a few of the events. Really, really great guys. And just same thing as you mentioned for showing up and just asking questions about cars. Then they do the same thing with motorcycle. Just button wheel is the little more
Oh yeah.
inland and far away from everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
great guy, and I'm sure there is plenty of people that he interacts with that would be interested in the kind of things that you have to offer.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely put you guys in touch one more time.
Yeah, for sure.
And what
It'd
you
be
were
cool.
saying,
It'd be cool if you mentioned my name. He's like, "Oh, I know that guy."
yeah, yeah, he's cool, really cool. And what you were saying earlier, getting into something like the US 2000 or Formula 4, I've actually been looking into this. And in January and February, they had two events in Austin, 3 days events. It was an expensive one. I mean, $5,000 a day with a 2-day minimum plus insurance and everything. But they were putting you in a Formula 4 car, and they were actually doing training and plenty of laps, lots of track time with actual scouts going there for Formula 3 and Formula 4 events. I was not able to make it. Unfortunately, I just came back from a month traveling the world. So spending an extra $30,000 plus I had to catch up on work. So I was unfortunately not able to make it, but I'll definitely go to the next one. So already been looking into this, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, I believe that's the championship for Formula 4 UAE and Formula 4 United States or North America. The dates match perfectly that you can actually attend both of them
Oh,
and
nice.
participate in both of them. When the UAE ends, I believe 3 weeks later, the US starts, something like this, along those lines. So the goal for 2024 is to be able to be on the startup line for both events, because if I can do both, then now that's bringing me the time on the track in front of other people that they're nice, but they're not just the nice people from Sunday morning that are trying to get the best lap time. They're trying to get in front of me, and I'm going to do whatever I can to be in front of them. So if I get to attend those 5 races with UAE and 5 races with the US, then that would be plenty of experience that I think is very invaluable if I want to move forward and further into the process.
Oh, that'd be tremendous. Yeah, anytime behind a Formula 4 car would be much more valuable to you, I think, than the karting is. So I would look into that
Mm-hmm.
and try to get your foot in the door with that. And like I said, that simulator racing, people think it's a video game, but I mean, it is in a way, but it's more of a realistic simulator than most people imagine. It's got that force feedback. So I have my wheels set
Mm-hmm.
pretty high as far as the force you need to generate to overcome the force that it gives you, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
workout. It's a lot of strain on your upper body. So training your neck muscles are really important. Your arm and upper body, shoulders are important. Your abs and your core, and mostly your right leg and your butt even. You got to get all that strong, and it's a big difference going from the karting G-forces to even a Formula 4 car G-forces. It's a lot of physical effort and
Mm-hmm.
mental power just to overcome all that stuff.
I am definitely going to look into this. And I believe for the resistance into the steering wheel, it comes with Thrustmaster. Is that the brand that provides this kind of feedback?
I think that's one of them. Definitely a Thrustmaster. I've heard of
Okay.
them. I think I'm not sure who designs their force feedback, but it's branded as Fanatec.
Okay.
But
Okay, great.
I personally know some motorsports fitness coaches. So if you're looking for anybody to have tailored specific training plans and meal plans and mental workout plans for being calm on race day, I can put you in touch with those guys too. One is Southern Pride Performance, Ethan Chapluck, and On Track Performance by Skylar Kopp. They're both
Okay.
phenomenal. I podcasted with both of them if you look through the episodes to get a little bit of feedback or information on them, but I could put you in contact if you want their phone number as well.
Okay, definitely. Yes, I'd like to speak with them.
Very good. So tell me about your business a little bit. What do you do for work?
Well, we do ground transportation for passengers. I don't know if you're familiar. You've probably seen them at the airport. Those guys in a suit. That hold a sign that says Mr. Smith or something like this, and then they just grab your luggage, take you to the car, and then take you to your destination. That's what we do.
Okay.
It's referred to as limousine, which is a very tricky word because people think of limousine as a stretch vehicle where you're gonna party in there and everything. It fits for both, for the stretch vehicle and for the black car. So I do more of the black car side, really into the corporate world, and that's how I met all of those Qualcomm and other customers.
Okay.
Actually,
Very good.
That's why I was driving today. I don't really drive anymore. I mean, never. I think the last customer I picked up myself was probably in January because we were stuck and I had to help. But this one customer is part of my plan toward the racing. So I like to show my face and kind of discuss with him. He's very personable. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to go and get him, and owner's privilege. I don't need the black suit and the tie. I can just go with the blue one and a little more relaxed. So yeah, that's what we do. And we just made an acquisition in Atlanta. And we're trying to get into the motor coach and buses part because that's where there is plenty of development to be made, so much expansion possible, and then therefore that's where the money is at. If you can pair the sedan SUV and the bigger vehicle, and it gives you a hand toward the world. You already have that hand onto what's going on in the world because the kind of people that use this, there is mom and pops kind of going to dinner for a date night, but it's mainly the people that move the world around, and I really like to be able to be in that environment. I'm not really about the celebrity world, but the people that are changing everything every day, that's who I want to be around. So that really, it gives me what I want. I can be behind the wheel if I want to, which I really love this. And I can be exposed to the people that are accomplishing things that I'm happy to see around the world. So it's very fulfilling, very, very fulfilling to be in that industry.
Sure. And there's probably a lot of players in the industry, right? So what makes your company stand out from the rest?
Well, we were in Las Vegas when I came to Speed Vegas for a convention. And actually, while I was on the track, my HR lady was over there. And, when we meet at those conventions, we meet the same people we've met before. We all kind of friends. So we start partying when the convention is over, or like at nights when the stations are over, we start partying and get a few drinks. And since we're getting in the industry very aggressively and get those motor coaches and all this acquisition situation, people have the tendency to kind of talk shit about us, kind of like, hey, we shaking the world around. So some people just want to spit on us, and some of the people are getting a little scared and they're like, okay, what is this guy doing? Anyway, there's this gentleman, that's somebody we interact with quite often. He's a really cool guy, but he has a big mouth, and he got a little drunk, and he didn't realize that my HR lady was going to tell me whatever's happening behind my back anyway, while I was racing. And then she started mentioning the motor coaches, and he was like, oh, you guys need to slow down. You haven't even learned how to crawl yet that you already want to fly. And you need to stop that man. Like he's not going to do anything. And she told him, you don't realize how Jordan is. There is no stopping him. So that's what makes us different. It's that the environment I'm trying to bring in is my personality overall is like, there's nobody stopping us. So we went through COVID 6 months after starting the company. That didn't stop us. We went through plenty of drama and problems and everything, but that's not stopping us. So tomorrow you can throw another recession at us or another COVID-19. We got it. And when you guys are going to get bored of it, then we're going to play the game until the end. So there's a lot of player, but we're going to stick around. So we're not going to go home at halftime. That's what makes us different.
That's good to hear. Sounds like you're in it for the long haul. And so what would you say are your biggest challenges with the company?
I've never been in the corporate world before I started this company. I've been military before, and then I came here, I was a student. I was a nanny on the side. I mean, that was part of my visa and everything. So I've never been in the corporate world. So that's been a huge challenge, has been to learn how things works. Because in the military, you tell your guy to do something, they got to do it. And if they don't do it, you're kind of allowed to slap them behind the ears, like shut up, get to it, do some push-ups. And like, I don't care if you're crying, like there is no crying. You Sick? Well, are you dead? No, then you come to work, you know? So then I had to come to the realization that the corporate world didn't work that way, especially in California. On top of that, I'm French, so I'm very straightforward. And I say a lot of things the way I would say them in France. And I very quickly realized that I can't do this in California. So I had to adapt to this. Not only just speaking, but the financials. In the military is a huge financial hole. So the money is spent, but it's not necessarily made in the bike. And corporate world, you can do this. So you have to learn the financials, and it's a lot more complicated than just having your own budget. So I think that part has been extremely hard. And then just overall, I want to bring a lot of innovation to this. Like a lot of it, so we're working on our own software, our own mobile app and everything. And I came to face a lot of struggle because no, the world doesn't happen as fast as my thoughts are coming. And I guess, yeah, the hardest part of this has been to just slow everything down enough that I can speed up the world a little bit, but I don't have to just fall off my legs and fall on my face because I'm trying to speed up the world too fast. You know, there's just so much I can accelerate everything around me before they start being like, okay, you're going too fast, just go away. So I think that's been the hardest part, because the first couple of years on top of COVID, I tried to make everything happen all at once, and we're still facing some problems from that aspect. Some other mistakes I've made last year where I was just trying to go too fast and too hard, and the consequences are not paid tomorrow or next week. They paid next year. We're
Yeah.
paying now the consequences of my mistakes from early last year. So now I think that's the hardest part, is just to get to the right speed and realize that the world doesn't move the way and at the speed that you want it to.
Sure, I understand that. It's a lot going on there. It sounds like it's a big operation.
We try.
Yeah. And so I wanted to switch gears and talk about marketing for a little bit. For racing, that is. And so have you developed a race resume of sorts? Your accomplishments in racing, like in a PDF document or anything like that?
Not at all. I don't have anything to put on there.
So it sounds like you've done track days for motorcycles and
Correct.
and a lot of karting. Is there any other actual racing outside of the karting world that you've done?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay. Well, if you could compile all of your karting, I'm sure you could make a resume out of that as well.
Yeah.
If you've kept track of your podiums, your first places, you could at least say, like, this is not where I want to be, in 5 years, but this is what I've done so far, and this is where I'd like to be. And, if you do have a big social media presence, that's very valuable to them, because if you look at some of the top pros in certain motorsports, they're not always winning races, but they seem to be in the sport for a long time, and they have views, they have people paying attention to them. And I think that's so important nowadays. It's not always how fast you are now. It's about how many followers you have, how many interactions, in social media are you getting. And there's actually a woman in drag racing. Her name is Megan Meyer, Meyer. And she's got a website that is dedicated to sponsorship activation and gaining sponsorship and how to do it. And she has her own course on how to attract sponsors and how to keep sponsors, how to make them happy, how to best promote your sponsors, and to get them in the first place. So I think it's super valuable. It's a course that I'd like to take because I'm not perfect myself, but I think it's meganmeyer.racing. And I'm sure you could find it from there, but she's got a whole course on how to get sponsorship through social media and through real money paying sponsors. Looks like she has a lot of testimonials. Like I said, it's a course I would like to take myself. And I don't think it's that expensive either. The results that you could get for a small amount of, a couple week or a couple month course, I think could be super valuable.
Okay, I'll definitely look into this. There is a lot of things very valuable in that interview that I'm gonna spend about 10 hours just to organize the notes properly for all of this and just put it into motion.
Yeah, I'm giving away a lot of free information here. I don't even charge anything for it.
Right?
Just an hour or two of your time.
Well, I'll be like the average um, influencer on social media that reach out to a company. I'll give you a shout out.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure to do this and do whatever I can to actually assist you. Starting with talking to Dustin, and then if you have anything I can do to help, I'd be happy to return the information or the favor that's been given.
Yeah, and definitely stay in touch with me when you make it big in Formula 4 cars and maybe you get sick or injured. Just think of me as your replacement driver.
All right.
I'll be there.
I'll think about it.
For sure.
Great.
And so, yeah, I'm trying to get into sports cars as well as open wheel and motorcycles as well. So, like, I love racing. I just got into bikes more because it was cheaper. I could see myself, funding a pro season easier on a motorcycle than I ever did in a car.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Great.
that's for an hour so far. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think we went over pretty much everything.
All right. I like it. So where can people find you online?
Well, I have an Instagram, Swan_racing_ was the closest that I could get. You guys can find me on there. I interact on it a lot more than I do on my personal Instagram. So whatever question or information you have, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to communicate with you.
Are you on?
That's about it.
Are you on YouTube? Are you a video creator?
Not at all. I've been told by my company marketer to start doing this. I need to get started. I don't know where, how to get started yet, but that's in my mind, and that's probably gonna happen sometime in April. When that happens, I'll make sure to announce it on Instagram as well, so everybody can cross-reference and find me.
All right, and then what's the company called? Where can people find your company if they want some services?
So it's called Swan Limousine, and then we have two websites just for San Diego in general. It's called SwanDiego.com, so just like the city of San Diego, but with the company word Swan Diego. And then otherwise, you can find us on app.swan.limo, and just give us a call or make a booking directly, and we'll make sure to take good care of you. Mention that you found us about the racing, and we'll double the care.
Awesome. Great to hear. Well, I'll get this episode edited and published probably within a week or two, and then I'll be sure to tag you in it and just share it as much as you can.
Awesome. Will do.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to me, and see you at the racetrack.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Have a good one.